I thought the custom-made leather jacket I'd saved 3 months to buy would make him smile. But instead he laughed and asked where his real gift was in front of our 30 dinner guests. Okay, so I'm 33, and my name is Rebecca, and right now I'm sitting in my childhood bedroom at my mother's house, trying to figure out how my 10-year marriage to David imploded in a single evening. My hands are still shaking when I think about it, which is most of the time, because even though it's been 2 weeks, I keep replaying every moment, wondering if there was some alternate universe where I kept my mouth shut and we're still together, still pretending everything was fine. For context, David and I met when we were both working at a marketing firm in Portland, Oregon. I was 23, fresh out of graduate school with my master's in communications, and he was 24, working in the creative department as a graphic designer. We were assigned to the same project team, and I remember thinking he was the most charismatic person I'd ever met. He had this way of making everyone in the room feel like they were the only person who mattered, this infectious energy that made even mundane Tuesday meetings feel exciting. We bonded over our shared love of terrible reality TV and our mutual hatred of our boss's obsession with mandatory team-building exercises. We dated for 2 years before getting married, and for the first 5 years of our marriage, things were genuinely good. Not perfect, no marriage is, but good. We had our routines, our inside jokes, our favorite restaurants. We bought a small house in the Alberta Arts District, adopted a rescue dog we named Waffles, and talked vaguely about having kids someday when we felt more settled. David was creative and passionate, and even though he sometimes got frustrated with the corporate grind, he seemed content enough. The problem started, I think, when David turned 30. Something about that milestone hit him hard. He started talking about how he'd sold out, how he'd spent his 20s chained to a desk designing email newsletters for a footwear company when he'd always dreamed of being an artist. He'd gone to school for fine arts originally, before pivoting to graphic design because his parents convinced him he needed something practical. His father was an accountant, his mother a nurse. Lovely people, but very much of the mindset that art was a hobby, not a career. So for years, David did the practical thing. He showed up, he collected his paycheck, he designed those email newsletters. But the older he got, the more resentful he became. He'd come home from work and spend hours in his little home office, painting or sketching or whatever, and I encouraged it. I bought him supplies. I framed his favorite pieces and hung them in our living room. I told him constantly that he was talented and that maybe someday he could do something with it. Then about 2 years ago, his company went through massive layoffs, and David's position was eliminated. At first, he was devastated. He spent 2 weeks sending out resumes, going on interviews, doing all the things you're supposed to do. But none of the jobs he found felt right. They were all the same: more corporate design work, more email newsletters, more of the soul-crushing routine he'd grown to hate. And that's when he sat me down and told me he didn't want to go back. He wanted to use the severance package to take some time, figure out what he really wanted to do with his life. He was 32 years old, he said, and he'd never pursued his actual dreams. He wanted to try painting seriously, maybe sell some pieces online, see if he could make it work as an artist. I remember that conversation so clearly. We were sitting on our back porch, and it was early fall, and the leaves were just starting to turn. David looked so earnest, so hopeful, and I loved him so much that I couldn't say no. Plus, I had just gotten promotion at work. I was now the director of communications at a tech startup that was doing really well. My salary had increased significantly, and I genuinely believed that we could manage for a few months while he figured things out. We can make this work, I told him. Take 6 months, a year even. Find yourself. I've got this. And I meant it. I really, truly meant it. The first few months were wonderful, honestly. David was so energized, so excited about life in a way I hadn't seen in years. He converted our spare bedroom into a studio, filled it with canvases and paints, and spent hours creating. He started an Instagram account to share his work, and the response was actually pretty positive. A few people even bought small pieces. I was proud of him, proud that he was finally pursuing something that made him happy. But somewhere around month 4, something shifted. The painting slowed down. The studio door stayed closed more often. David started spending an increasing amount of time in front of his computer, and when I asked what he was doing, he said he was researching the art market, building his online presence, networking. Then I noticed the gaming. It started innocently enough, just some casual games to relax, he said. But gradually it became more. He discovered Twitch, started watching streamers, started talking about how these people made thousands of dollars just playing video games and interacting with viewers. He'd watch them for hours, studying their techniques, their setups, their personalities. "Babe," he said to me one night, his eyes bright with that same excitement he'd had when he first started painting, "I think I found my thing. I want to be a streamer." I'll be honest, my first reaction was not supportive. I laughed, not meanly, but I laughed because it seemed so out of left field. David had never been much of a gamer. He played occasionally, sure, but it wasn't a passion. "I'm serious," he insisted. "Look at these people, Rebecca. They make 6 figures. They have communities. They're doing what they love and getting paid for it. That could be me." I tried to be open-minded. I really did. I asked questions. I watched some streams with him. I tried to understand the appeal. And on some level, I did get it. The idea of building a community around something you enjoy, of being your own boss, of creative freedom. It made sense. What didn't make sense was the money. Because streaming, as David explained it, required investment. You couldn't just sit in front of your laptop with a built-in camera and expect to succeed. You needed a powerful gaming PC, multiple monitors, a professional microphone, a high-quality camera, lighting equipment, a comfortable chair, soundproofing for the room. You needed games, which cost money. You needed overlays and graphics and emotes, which cost money. You needed to be consistent, which meant streaming for hours every day, which meant not working a regular job. We're talking about maybe $6,000 to start, he said. But it's an investment in our future. I should have said no. I should have pointed out that we had savings, yes, but that savings was meant for emergencies, for home repairs, for the kids we'd talk about having. I should have asked why he couldn't start smaller, with what we already had, and upgrade gradually as the income came in. But I didn't, because I loved him, and I wanted him to be happy, and I kept thinking about how miserable he'd been in that corporate job, how alive he looked when he first started painting, how I'd promised to support him. So I said yes. The first couple of months of streaming were actually okay. David was committed. I'll give him that. He streamed every day, sometimes for 6 or 8 hours at a stretch. He studied other streamers, networked in Discord servers, engaged with the tiny audience he was building. He made maybe $50 in donations that first month, which wasn't nothing, and he was so excited about it that I couldn't help but be excited too. But the other stuff started slipping. I'd come home from work, and my job was demanding 12-hour days sometimes, because tech startups don't care about work-life balance, and the house would be exactly as I had left it that morning. Dishes in the sink, laundry unfolded, waffles needing to be walked. David would be in his office, headphones on, completely oblivious to the world outside his stream. At first, I handled it. I did the dishes. I walked the dog. I made dinner. I told myself it was temporary, that once his channel grew, he'd have more flexibility, more time. I told myself that what he was doing was work, even if it didn't look like my work. I told myself to be supportive. But months passed, and the channel didn't really grow. He had maybe 50 regular viewers on a good night, which he insisted was solid for a new streamer. But the donations were sporadic, the subscriptions minimal. He was making maybe $200 a month, which didn't even cover the cost of the games he was buying. Meanwhile, our savings were dwindling. I was covering everything: the mortgage, the utilities, the groceries, the car payments, the insurance, the streaming equipment upgrades he kept insisting were necessary. I stopped buying things for myself. I stopped getting my hair done, stopped going out with friends, stopped contributing to my retirement account because there just wasn't enough left at the end of the month. And I was tired, so tired. I'd work all day, come home to a messy house, make dinner, clean up, walk the dog, do laundry, and then collapse into bed while David was still streaming, still laughing with his viewers, still living this completely separate life in the next room. When I tried to talk to him about it, he'd get defensive. "You don't understand what this takes," he'd say. "You think because I'm not in an office, I'm not working. But this is 24/7. When I'm not streaming, I'm planning content, engaging with my community, studying analytics, networking with other streamers. It's not like I'm just sitting around playing games." "But the house," I'd start. "The house can wait. I'll get to it. But right now I need to be focused. The algorithm doesn't care if I have dishes to do." And somehow I always ended up apologizing for not being supportive enough, for not understanding, for making him feel like his work wasn't real work. This went on for over a year. A full year of me working, him streaming, me cleaning, him complaining that I didn't appreciate him. A year of me watching our savings account shrink and our marriage crumble and feeling completely powerless to stop it. Then came his 35th birthday. I wanted it to be perfect. I wanted to remind him that I loved him, that I believed in him, that I was still on his team despite everything. I planned a party at a rented event space in Northeast Portland. Nothing too fancy, but nice. I invited our families, his from Vancouver, Washington, and mine from just across town. I invited our friends, the ones we still had, the ones who hadn't drifted away, because we never had time to see them anymore. I ordered catering from his favorite food cart pod, arranged for a local brewery to provide beer, spent weeks putting together a slideshow of photos from our 10 years together. And the gift. I spent 3 months agonizing over the gift. He'd been dropping hints for months about a new gaming setup. A $5,000 gaming PC with all the bells and whistles, multiple monitors, a special chair, the whole thing. He'd send me links, mention it casually, sigh wistfully when he watched other streamers with their elaborate setups. But I couldn't afford it. I literally could not afford it. After a year supporting us both, after a year of covering every single expense, I had maybe $2,000 in my personal savings. I'd been putting off car maintenance, putting off dental work, putting off everything just to keep us afloat. There was no way I could spend $5,000 on a gaming setup. So instead, I found something else. A vintage watch from a local antique shop. It was a 1960s Omega, beautiful condition, with a brown leather band that I thought would look perfect with his style. The shop owner told me it belonged to an artist originally, a painter who'd worn it every day for decades while he worked. I loved that story. It felt meaningful, connected to David's creative journey. It cost me $1,200, which was more than I should have spent, but I wanted him to know I'd put thought into it. I wanted him to know I saw him. The party started well. People arrived, they ate, they drank, they mingled. David seemed happy, or at least he was smiling and making conversation. His parents hugged me and thanked me for organizing everything. My mom kept squeezing my hand and telling me how proud she was of me for being so supportive. I was starting to think maybe everything would be okay. Then came the gift opening. In retrospect, I shouldn't have insisted he opened mine in front of everyone. I was just so excited, so hopeful that this gift would make him see how much I cared. I handed him the box. It was small, obviously not a gaming setup, and said, "Open it now. I want to see your face." He took the box, and I watched his expression change. There was a flicker of something, disappointment, annoyance, before he schooled his features into a neutral smile. He opened it slowly, pulled out the watch, and held it up. For a moment, there was silence. Then he laughed. Not a happy laugh. A dismissive, condescending laugh. "Oh," he said, "a watch. That's nice, babe." My stomach dropped. He continued, still holding it up like it was some kind of joke. "I did send you those links. I've been pretty clear about what I actually need right now. For my career." He looked around at the gathered guests, as if inviting them to share in his bewilderment. "But I guess a watch is something." Someone in the back coughed. My mother's face had gone pale. "David," I said quietly, "can we talk about this later?" No, let's talk about it now." He set the watch back in its box, closed the lid, placed it on the table. I've been telling you for months what would actually help me. What would actually show that you support what I'm doing. And you get me a watch." He shook his head. "It's just kind of disappointing, you know? It feels like you don't take my career seriously. Like you think this is just a hobby, something I'll grow out of. And after everything I've been trying to build, after all the work I've put in, all the work you've put in." I heard my voice come out sharper than I intended. "Yes, all the work." "What work, David? What work have you put in exactly?" The room went dead silent. I could feel everyone's eyes on us, could see my father-in-law shifting uncomfortably, could see my best friend Julia shaking her head slightly, trying to warn me to stop. But I couldn't stop. Something in me had snapped, some cord that had been stretched too thin for too long, and it was breaking whether I wanted it to or not. I worked 12 hours a day. I said, my voice rising. 12 hours. And then I'd come home, and I'd clean the house you've been sitting in all day. I make dinner because you're too busy streaming to notice that we need to eat. I walk the dog. I do the laundry. I pay the bills with money from my job that I've had to pour everything into because you haven't contributed a dime in over a year. Rebecca, no, you want to talk about it now. So let's talk about it now. I was shaking, but I couldn't stop. I have spent the last 12 months supporting you. I have spent thousands of dollars on your streaming equipment, on your games, on your career. That has earned maybe $2,000 total. I have put off getting my car fixed, put off going to the dentist, put off buying myself so much as a new pair of shoes, because every extra penny goes to keeping us afloat while you sit in your office playing video games. I'm not just playing. You are. You're playing video games. And I've been telling myself it's okay. It's his dream. I need to be supportive. But you know what? Dreams are supposed to go both ways. I had dreams too, David. I dreamed of having a partner, an equal, someone who would notice when I was exhausted and say, let me take care of it. I dreamed of building a life together, not building a life for you. His face had gone red. So this is what it's about? Money? You're upset about money? I'm upset about everything. I'm upset that you couldn't even pretend to appreciate a gift I spent months choosing. I'm upset that you humiliated me in front of our families instead of saying thank you like a normal person. I'm upset that I've been killing myself to make you happy, and all you can do is complain about what you don't have. Don't you dare. I'm not finished. I was crying now, tears streaming down my face, but I didn't care. I have been your wife, your partner, your cheerleader, your financial support system, your housekeeper, your cook, your everything. And you know what I've gotten in return? Criticism, complaints, lectures about how I'm not supportive enough. Well, you know what? I'm done. I'm done being the only adult in this marriage. I grabbed my purse and walked out. Walked right past all those shocked faces, out the door into the cool Portland evening. I walked for blocks, not knowing where I was going, just needing to move, needing to get away from that room, from his face, from the sound of his laugh when he opened my gift. I walked for maybe an hour. Turned my phone off because I couldn't bear to see the messages. Found myself at a coffee shop in the Alberta district. Sat outside, ordered a tea I didn't drink, and just sat. Stared at the passing cars. The couples walking hand in hand. The normal people living normal lives. And wonder how my life had become this. When I finally got home, the house was dark. Waffles greeted me at the door, tail wagging, and I realized no one had walked her or fed her. David was in his office, door closed, light on. I could hear him talking to his stream, laughing at something, completely oblivious that his wife had just walked out on him. I fed the dog, let her out, and went to bed. David didn't come to bed that night, or the next night, or the night after that. For 2 weeks, we coexisted in that house like strangers. He slept on the couch in his office, came out only to get food, avoided eye contact completely. I went to work, came home, did the chores, took care of the dog, and cried in the shower where he couldn't hear me. Neither of us spoke. Neither of us apologized. Neither of us made a move to fix anything. I kept waiting for him to come to me. Kept hoping he'd realize how badly he'd messed up, how much he owed me, how unfair he'd been. But the days passed and nothing changed. Finally, I couldn't take the silence anymore. 2 weeks and 3 days after the party, I knocked on his office door. "Can we talk?" He was streaming. I could hear him mid-conversation with his viewers, but he muted his microphone and said, "What?" "Please, I need to talk to you." He sighed heavily, announced to his stream that he had to step away, and opened the door. He didn't invite me in, just stood there, arms crossed, expression carefully blank. "Okay," he said. "Talk. Can we sit down? Actually talk." Another sigh, but he followed me to the living room. He sat in the armchair, not on the couch next to me. The distance felt deliberate, punitive. "David," I started, "I love you. I have loved you for 10 years. And I don't want our marriage to end over one terrible night. But we can't keep going like this. We can't keep not talking, not addressing the problems. Something has to change." He was quiet for a moment, staring at his hands. Then he looked up and his eyes were hard. "You want to know what I think? I think you showed your true colors at that party. I think you've been waiting for an excuse to tear me down, to make me look like a failure in front of everyone. And I think you got what you wanted." "What?" "David, no. You embarrassed me. You humiliated me. My parents saw that. My friends saw that. And you haven't even apologized. You just expect me to forget it happened, to pretend you didn't stand there, and tell everyone I'm a lazy, useless failure." "I didn't say that." "You implied it. You made it very clear that you think my work is a joke, that I'm just playing video games while you do everything. And you know what? Maybe you're right. Maybe I am a failure. But at least I know now that I can't count on you to have my back." I felt like I had been punched. "I have had your back for over a year. I have sacrificed everything. Because you thought I'd be rich. That's what this is really about, isn't it?" He stood up, started pacing. "You married me thinking my family had money, thinking your life would be easy. And now that it's not, now that you actually have to work for once, you're resentful. You're angry that I'm not the meal ticket you expected." The words hit me like physical blows. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't speak. I just stared at him, this man I'd loved for a decade, listening to him reduce everything I'd done to what? Greed? Gold digging? Is that really what you think? I finally managed. "After everything? After I told you to follow your dreams, after I worked myself to exhaustion so you could, after I never once asked you to go back to your father's company or get a regular job, You think I'm with you for money? I think actions speak louder than words. And your action was to tear me apart in public the first time things got hard. I started crying. I couldn't help it. The tears came, and I couldn't stop them, and I hated myself for crying because I knew he'd use it against me. Oh, great, he said. Here come the waterworks. Because that solves everything, right? Cry your way out of taking responsibility. Taking responsibility for what? For being hurt that you mocked my gift? For being exhausted from carrying us both? For finally telling the truth after a year of pretending? The truth. He laughed bitterly. You want truth? The truth is you stopped believing in me months ago. The truth is you've been waiting for me to fail. So you can say, I told you so. The truth is you don't respect me. You don't support me, and you never did. I wiped my face, forced myself to stop crying. If that's how he was going to be, if my tears were just manipulation to him, then I wouldn't give him the satisfaction. Okay, I said quietly. If that's what you believe, then we have nothing left to talk about. I stood up, walked to our bedroom, and started packing. He didn't follow me, didn't try to stop me, didn't say a word as I filled my suitcase with clothes, as I gathered my toiletries, as I called an Uber because I couldn't bear to stay another minute. He was still in the living room when I walked out, still sitting in that armchair, staring at nothing. I went to my mother's house. She opened the door at midnight, took one look at my face, and pulled me inside without asking questions. She made me tea, sat with me while I cried, and told me I was going to be okay even though I couldn't see how. The next morning, I woke up in my childhood bedroom, and for one blissful second, I didn't remember. Then it all came crashing back, and I lay there staring at the ceiling, wondering how my life had come to this. David didn't call, didn't text, didn't reach out at all. I waited stupidly. I kept checking my phone, hoping for some message, some acknowledgement that I mattered, that our marriage mattered. Nothing. Days passed. Nothing. After a week, I called a divorce attorney. After 2 weeks, I filed. When he was served, he finally called. I saw his name on my phone, and my heart stopped, started again, raced. Rebecca. His voice was different, softer, uncertain. Divorce papers? Really, you didn't call. You didn't try to talk to me. What was I supposed to think? A long pause. I thought you needed space. I don't know what I thought. David, I'm willing to try. I'm willing to go to counseling, to work on things, to see if we can fix this. But you have to meet me halfway. You have to acknowledge what happened, apologize for what you said, actually work with me. Another pause. When he spoke again, his voice had hardened. So it's my fault? Everything is my fault? You're the one who walked out. You're the one who filed. And now you want me to apologize. I want us to both apologize. I want us to actually communicate, to address the problems. The problem is you don't support me. That's the problem. And no amount of counseling is going to fix that if you can't see it. I closed my eyes, felt the tears threatening again. I have supported you for over a year. I have to go. And he hung up. That was it. That was the last conversation we ever had. He blocked me everywhere after that. Phone, social media, everything. His family blocked me too. I heard through mutual friends that he was telling people I'd left him because he couldn't afford to buy me expensive things anymore, that I'd only married him for his family's money, that I'd shown my true colors when times got hard. It hurt. God, it hurt so much to have 10 years reduced to that, to have everything I'd done twisted into something ugly. It still hurts, even now. The divorce was finalized 3 months later. It was quick, relatively painless legally because we didn't have much jointly. The house was rented. We had separate bank accounts. No kids. I let him keep most of the streaming equipment. I didn't want any of it. After the divorce, I moved into a small apartment in southeast Portland near Division Street. It's just me and Waffles now, and honestly, it's peaceful. Hard, but peaceful. I come home from work, and the house is exactly as I left it, because no one's been there all day. I cook what I want to eat. I watch what I want to watch. I go to sleep when I'm tired and wake up when I'm not. Work has been good. That promotion I mentioned, it came through, and I'm now the VP of Communications at my company. I'm making more money than I ever have, and for the first time in years, I'm actually saving it. I've started contributing to my retirement again. I got my car fixed. I went to the dentist. I heard through the grapevine that David stopped streaming about 6 months ago. Apparently, without my income to subsidize it, the whole thing fell apart. He moved back in with his parents in Vancouver, started working at his father's accounting firm. I don't know if he's happy. I don't know if he ever thinks about me, about us, about what we could have been. Sometimes I still cry. Sometimes I still miss him. Not the him from the end, the bitter, defensive stranger he became, but the him from the beginning. The guy who made me laugh on Tuesday mornings. The guy who believed in me when I didn't believe in myself. The guy I thought I'd grow old with. But most days I'm okay. Most days I'm grateful. Grateful that I got out before we had kids, before we bought a house together, before we entangled our lives so completely that separating would have been impossible. Grateful that I still have my career, my friends, my family, my dog. Grateful that I chose myself in the end, even when it felt like the hardest thing I'd ever done. I don't know if David will ever understand what he lost. I don't know if he'll ever look back and see how unfair he was, how much I gave, how little he appreciated. Maybe he will. Someday. Maybe he won't. It's not my job to make him see. My job now is to take care of myself, to build a life that makes me happy, to remember that love shouldn't feel like drowning, to know, deep in my bones, that I deserve better than someone who makes me feel small. And I do. We all do. So that's my story. It's not dramatic or unusual. I know thousands of women have lived some version of it, but it's mine, and writing it down helps. It helps to remember that I survived, that I'm still here, that the sun keeps coming up even on the days when I don't want it to. If you're in a similar situation, if you're supporting someone who's forgotten that relationships are supposed to be mutual, if you're exhausted and unseen and wondering if you're the problem, please know you're not alone. Please know that you deserve to be appreciated. Please know that it's okay to choose yourself. It's more than okay. It's necessary.